Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar from Creation to Presentation, Getting Started with Yulio. My name is Nicole. I'm one of the Client Success Specialists here at Yulio, and I'll be hosting today's session. The main objective of today's webinar is to provide an overview of the Yulio platform and some of its key features so that you can leave confident to start experimenting with Yulio and creating your own VR experiences. This training will cover a lot of information, so if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to enter them in the question box and I will answer them during the Q&A period at the end of our session. My contact details are also on screen now, so if you leave today's session with any questions or if you'd like to follow up with a one-on-one training session later, please feel free to reach out to me. Lastly, if you do have to leave today's session early, I am recording the full webinar and I will send that to all registrants within the next couple of days, so you'll be able to watch it later and share it with your team as well. Here's our agenda for today's webinar. We'll start off by briefly going over Yulio Jump. Then we'll do a quick overview of what you can expect to see in your Yulio account. After that, we'll go into creating and organizing your projects, followed by enhancing your projects with the Hotspot editor. We'll then look at some options for viewing and sharing your projects and finish off with a Q&A period. To start off, I'm briefly going to go over Yulio Jump. So if you don't know, Yulio Jump is our cloud-based rendering engine, which is available through the Yulio extension for SketchUp, CET, and Revit. This extension is free to install and use for anyone with an active Yulio license. Yulio Jump allows you to generate content for VR and AR with only a few clicks and then sends those files directly to your Yulio account where you can create your immersive VR experience. I'm not going to be covering how to render with the Yulio extension today, but I will be referencing Yulio Jump throughout the session. Following the webinar, if you're interested in learning more about using Yulio Jump, you can visit the CAD plugins page on our website, which offers detailed guides for Yulio Jump for CET, Revit, and SketchUp. You can also download the plugins from this page as well. So I will just show you. Oops. So this is the CAD plugins page where you can go and download the extension for your preferred CAD program. And we also have these user guides here to help you out with the installation and using them. And then we also have our training portal here with those training courses for Yulio Jump for Revit, SketchUp, and CET. That being said, you can also reach out to me anytime if you'd like to set up a meeting, and I'd be happy to walk you through the extension as well. So let's move on to a quick tour of your Yulio account. So when you first log into your account, you will be automatically taken to your projects page. This is where you will go to create a new project and where all the projects on your account will be stored. You can always navigate to the projects page just by clicking on this tab here at the top of your page. And next to the projects tab, we have headsets. This is where you can go to connect a headset and see which headsets are connected to your account. So as you can see, my headset is connected here. You can also see a list of projects that are connected to your headsets, and you can download and delete projects from your headsets from this page as well. You can add up to 20 projects at a time to your headsets. Beside the headsets tab, we have Collaborate. Collaborate is our presentation and collaboration tool, and this is where you can go to start a Collaborate session. We'll return to this page a little bit later when I cover sharing and presenting your projects. Next to collaborate, we have the resources tab, which includes direct links to the CAD plugins page and the learning portal that I mentioned just earlier. You'll also find a link to our knowledge base here. And this is a great resource to reference if you have any questions about how to use any of Yulio's features. The last tab at the top here is where you'll see the email associated with your Yulio account. By clicking on this tab, you'll see a few secondary tabs in the dropdown. Account settings is where you can go to view and update your personal Yulio account information. And then the company settings tab is where account admins can keep track of account usage, manage licenses, and add custom company branding to the account. So if you click on this custom branding tab here, you can add your own company logo, and this logo will appear every time you enter a project in VR or browser mode. So this is a great way to kind of personalize your VR experiences. All right, so now that you have a good idea of what you can expect to see when logged into your account, I'm just going to go back to the projects page here and we'll get into creating and organizing your projects. So as you start creating with Yulio, all of your projects will be organized into folders along the left side of your screen. Yulio offers two different types of folders, public and private. You can tell which folders are public because you'll see a person icon on the folder. So my team folder here is public. And when you log into your account, you should see a folder titled team. So this folder is public by default, which means that the folder itself and any of its subfolders will be visible to you and anyone that is a user on your account. The solid black folders are your private folders, and these can be helpful if you have more than one team member on your account. These folders are visible to you, any team members that you choose to give access to, and anyone listed as an admin on your account. So to create a new folder, you will just scroll down and select this Create New Folder button, and you'll be prompted to name it. And as you can see, that new folder will be created as a private folder by default. If you want to make your folder public, you can do that just by clicking on it and then dragging it as a subfolder under Teams. If you want to change it back to private, you can do that again just by clicking and dragging it back to the bottom of your list. If you wanted to keep your folder private but give select team members access to your folder, you can do this by selecting your folder, clicking on these three dots next to the folder's title, and then selecting permission. And here you can add team members to that folder. All right, now let's get into creating our first VR experience. So there's two ways to go about this. The first is with Yulio Jump. So when you render your projects with Jump, a new Yulio project will be automatically created for you, and it will appear in your Yulio account like this. You'll see it pop up into that folder that you selected to go to. If you choose not to render with Yulio Jump, you can create a new project manually just by clicking on this Create Project button. So this will open up a new project, as you can see here, where you can manually upload all the scenes and any other content that you want to include. Today, we're going to imagine that we rendered with Yulio Jump and that our project has just finished processing. So I'm going to exit out of this and open up our project here that we are imagining just came out of Yulio Jump. So right now I'm on the project edit page. And this project was designed in CET and I rendered it with Yulio Jump. So as you can see, my project scenes that I captured in CET were processed and uploaded here for VR. With Jump, you can also choose to have your floor plan and augmented reality assets generated and uploaded for you, which I have done, and we'll go over this a little bit more in detail in a little bit. Like I said earlier, you don't have to use Yulio Jump to create a VR project. So, if you choose to render your scenes with another rendering engine, you can manually upload those scenes just by clicking on the browse button here. Okay. So, not all of my assets have been uploaded, but since my scenes are ready, and that's the most important part, I'm just going to go through some of the enhancement assets we can upload here. So, the first one is audio. And for the purposes of today's webinar, I'm going to take advantage of all of our enhancements that you see here. So we have audio, images, video, and AR. Please note these are all optional, so you can use them to elevate your VR project, but they're not necessary. That being said, they can help provide your clients with additional context around design choices and deliver a more interactive and engaging experience. So I do like to take advantage of them as much as possible. All right, so our first enhancement option, like I said, is audio. And there's a couple of different ways you can incorporate audio into your VR experience. The first is through audio hotspots, which are placed as a clickable hotspot anywhere in your project. A couple of ways you can use audio hotspots are to insert a welcome message or describe a design choice. The second way you can incorporate audio into your project is through ambient audio. So, ambient audio will automatically play when your viewer enters a scene. There's no hotspot associated with this audio. Some ways you can use ambient audio would be to add music or background noise to your project to set a certain mood and make the experience more immersive overall. If you're interested, we do offer sample audio files for you to download from the project resources page, which you can access by selecting resources and then project resources. Regardless of how you will be using your audio, so whether that's as an audio hotspot or ambient, you will upload all of those files here. So doing that now, I'm just going to click on browse. And I'm just going to select these from my files. Our next enhancement option here is images. You can upload a JPEG or PNG file here and add it as an image hotspot anywhere in your project. Some ways you can use image hotspots are to show your client a real life product shot, a material sample, or even a before and after photo. So again, to upload my images, I'm just going to click on browse and upload from my files. Next, we have video. So like images, you can insert a video anywhere in your project as a video hotspot. A couple of different ways we see video being used are to incorporate product videos or to introduce the designer and have them share some details about the design. So anyone with an active Yulio license can add a video to their project from YouTube or Vimeo. To add a YouTube video, you'll just copy the URL from, oops, I exited out of that. Hold on a minute. You'll just copy the URL essentially from YouTube and add that in here. I will do this a little, I might have to skip that right now because I accidentally exited um, the YouTube link. All right, let's move on to AR. So as you can see, I've already have my AR models uploaded here because like my scenes, they were generated during the rendering process with Yulio Jump. So the easiest way to create AR content for your Yulio VR project is using Yulio Jump. And you can create AR models through Yulio Jump for Revit, SketchUp, and CET, which is great. If you want to learn more about adding AR to your Yulio VR projects, I encourage you to check out the Yulio Jump user guides that I pointed out earlier that are again available on the CAD plugins page on our website. So again, you can reach that page by going to resources and CAD plugins. You'll just select the user guide, like I said, based on your preferred CAD tool. So, a benefit of adding AR to your VR project is that you can bring certain elements in your project to life for your client. So, Using just a phone, a tablet, or a VR headset, your client can actually see what the object will look like in the context of the physical space. We'll get into this a little bit more later on, and you'll be able to try AR out for yourself. Again, if you choose to not use Yulio Jump, you can manually upload an AR model from your computer files as long as it meets our compatible upload formats, which you can always see here. The final enhancement option we have here is floor plan. Like I mentioned earlier, if you render with Jump, your floor plan can be automatically captured and uploaded here for you. As you can see, mine's already uploaded. Again, if you don't use Jump, you can always upload it manually. When you include a floor plan in your project, Yulio allows you to add location markers to that floor plan, which I will show you later on. And these location markers will represent each of your scenes, and your clients can use those markers to help identify where they are in the space and use them to navigate to new scenes. Another thing I want to note here is that if you have multiple floor plans, we do support adding multiple floor plan or multiple levels to your project as well. So these are all the assets that you can upload to your project. You can always come back to this page at any time if you want to add more assets or remove assets. One of the great things about Yulio is that you don't have to remember to save your changes along the way. All of your edits are automatically saved as you go. So now that I have my assets uploaded, the next step would be to open up the hotspot editor and start adding the navigation and enhancement of hotspots to my scenes using those assets I've just uploaded. And from this page, you can open up the hotspot editor just by clicking on this big blue button. Oops. Okay, so when you open the editor, you'll see that you are standing in your first scene. And if you look to the left of my screen, you'll notice all of your enhancement or all of your hotspot editing options are along the left side here. So we'll go through each of these one by one. So the first hotspot tool is target scenes. And this is where you can add or edit your navigation hotspots throughout all the scenes in your project. So if you don't know, navigation hotspots are Yulio's form of point-to-point navigation. Your viewer can use them to navigate to new scenes, and they can help give your viewer a sense of walking around the space. As you can see, my navigation hotspots have been placed in my project already. When you render with Yulio Jump, you have the option to add navigation hotspots to your scenes during the rendering process. So that's what I've done here, and it just saves me from having to come in and do it manually myself. That being said, I typically do like to come into the hotspot editor after to fine tune the placement and even the size of my navigation hotspots that are generated through Jump. So this is where I would go to do that. If you want to adjust the location of your hotspot, you can do that just by clicking on the hotspot and dragging it into its preferred location. In Yulio, Jump will typically place your hotspots at eye level, but we've also seen users place them on the floor so that they maybe don't take away from the scene as much. To edit the size of the hotspot, you can again click on the hotspot and then select this pencil icon, and this will open up your hotspot properties. And from here, you can adjust what we call the depth of the hotspot. Um, So when you move the tool closer to near, it will increase the size of your hotspot. And when you move it closer to far, it will shrink your hotspot. So it does, I guess, by looking at it, does adjust the size, but really what it's doing is making your hotspot appear closer or further away in VR, which just helps the viewer distinguish between near and far. So I'm just going to move mine closer to near here. So within your hotspot properties, you can also edit the title of your hotspot or hide it. If you didn't use Yulio Jump, you can also, again, change the color of your hotspot. So you can change it based on the scene, based on even your branding. I'm just going to keep mine white today. So if you didn't use Yulio Jump, or if you prefer to add your hotspots manually, you can do this just by dragging and dropping each scene into your current scene based on its location. So I will show you how to do this now. So I'm just going to delete my third hotspot here just to show you how I would add it in manually if I wanted to. So I've deleted that third scene and I can see it here. So you'll see a thumbnail image here, and that's your target view. So this tells you where that camera or perspective is located in the scene. So I'm just going to drag and drop it at the location, approximate location, I guess. And then you can go ahead and adjust those hotspot properties. In this column, I am going to adjust the depth a little bit closer and then press close. And that's it. If you are adding your navigation hotspots manually, one thing you will have to remember is to add your hotspots to each scene so that you make sure that all of you haven't just added your navigation hotspots to one scene. You'll have to go through each scene one by one and add in your hotspots in each scene. All right, now that I have my navigation hotspots, I'm going to move down my list here to audio. So here's my audio files that I uploaded earlier. This one right here is just a welcome message, and to add it to my scene, I'm just going to drag and drop it where I want it to go. I am going to just quickly move back to my first scene though to do this. Okay. I'm going to drag this welcome message over the reception desk. So once I drop the hotspot, as you can see, I can edit my audio properties here. I'm going to leave this title on, so I'm not going to hide it, but I am going to shorten my title just to welcome. And this is because longer titles can kind of take away from your scene, especially when you're viewing in VR. And I'm going to adjust my depth a little bit, but just keep these properties the same and then press close. All right, the next option we have here is text annotations or text hotspots. So some ways you can use text hotspots are to insert a welcome message, offer product details or specs, or provide any additional information about the space that you'd like. So text hotspots are the only thing that you don't have to upload anything in advance for. So I create my text hotspots right here in the hotspot editor. So I'm just going to click on create annotation. And I'm going to use this text hotspot to promote Yulio's 30-day free trial. So starting with the title, I'm going to write try Yulio. And you'll notice there's no hide option for the title. The title's always hidden for text hotspots, but you will see it if you hover over the hotspot or if you click on it. Now I can add a short message. So I'll write oops. Okay, and then after I have my message, I can add an external link to this hotspot. So this is just a clickable link that will appear when someone opens the text hotspot. And they can click on that link to visit an online PDF or a web page that can perhaps provide more information. So in this case, I'm going to write my link title, which is get started. And then I'm going to link to the Yulio pricing page, which is right here. And then I'll just press, I'm going to adjust my depth a little bit for this hotspot and move it maybe over here. And then I will press close. So our next hotspot is images, and that's here. And I can see all my images I uploaded earlier. but I am just going to move to my next scene to add in my image hotspot. So I'm going to click on this arrow here to move to the next scene and go from here. So ideally, when you are creating and placing your enhancement hotspots, we recommend sprinkling them throughout all the scenes in your project. So this can help just keep your clients engaged as they move from scene to scene, and it also helps keep you from flooding one single scene with a bunch of hotspots. So now that I'm in my new scene, I'm going to add in my image hotspot. So just like I've been doing, I'm going to click and drag my image into the scene to create a hotspot. So this is a photo of another combination of this modular seating. So I'm just going to place it over the seating itself. And looking at my hotspot properties, I'm going to actually hide the title here. And then I'm going to add a link to this hotspot. And I'm going to link to the product page. So I'll write product details. And then I will go to the product page, copy the link, and paste it here. And I can adjust my depth, although looks okay. I'll move it closer and then press close, and my image hotspot's ready. So the next hotspot we can add is video. I obviously earlier didn't upload the video link, but if I did, you would see the video link to my YouTube video here, and I would just insert that into my project like I've been doing with all of the other hotspots. When the viewer clicks on the hotspot, they will be able to view that that video from like as a YouTube video. One thing to note about adding a YouTube or other third party video to your project is that you can't view them in VR or through a VR headset. So it really only kind of works in browser mode. So if you're viewing on a computer or a phone. All right, the last hotspot I can add here is AR. So like I said earlier, I rendered this project with Yulio Jump and added AR models to my render. So my AR hotspots were generated and actually placed in my project automatically. So similar to navigation hotspots, though, sometimes the placement or the size of the hotspots that are generated through Jump can be slightly off. So I do like to come in to the hotspot editor and adjust them if needed. So I'm going to move back to my first scene here. Oops. And here we can see my AR models hotspots have been placed over the table here and this chair. Another thing to note about adding AR hotspots from Yulio Jump is that the hotspot will actually be placed over that object in every single scene. So I had already came in here and deleted the hotspot from this scene. So you would have actually seen the hotspot located here and here on this table as well. I didn't really think it needed to be placed over the objects in this scene because we're kind of far away from the object and it didn't really make sense. So I did come in earlier and delete those, but that's just something to keep in mind when you're using that AR feature from Yulio Jump. Now I'm just going to go back to my scene here. Okay, so if you wanted to adjust the placement or the depth of the hotspot, you can you can do that just by clicking on the hotspot again and opening up the hotspot properties. Oops, let's exit out of that. I can also come in later and add an external link to these AR models as well. So for instance, if I wanted to link to the product page, I can add that in here as well for my client to learn more. Okay. Moving on from hotspots, I'm going to click on this icon here, which will open my project's floor plan. So, what you can do in the hotspot editor to enhance your floor plan is add location markers that are associated with your scenes. Because I rendered with Yulio Jump and selected the add floor plan tool or feature, all of my location markers have already been accurately placed for me into the floor plan. That being said, if you didn't use Jump, you would be able to come in to the hotspot editor and add in those red location markers manually just by dragging and dropping them into the floor plan. So again, I can show you what that would look like just by deleting one of these. So similar to my scenes, you'll see the thumbnail here, and you'll just want to place that as close as possible to the approximate location, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And then you can just exit out of that, and that's ready to go. So with these location markers, your client will be able to easily identify where they are in your space, and this is particularly helpful if you have a large space that you're working with. Depending on which scene they're in, when they open up the floor plan, the location marker that represents the scene they're in will be highlighted blue. So if I was in my first scene, standing in my first scene, and I opened the floor plan, wherever I'm standing would have that highlighted blue location marker. They can also use the location markers to navigate to a new scene just by clicking on them. All right, so the final enhancement option that we are missing is our ambient audio. So ambient audio is actually created outside of the hotspot editor. So I'm just going to click on my back button here and return to the project edit page for this. So now that I'm back on the project edit page, I'm going to add my ambient audio under the scenes tab, which I'm in now. And you can add ambient audio to any or all scenes from this page. As I mentioned earlier, ambient audio will play as soon as your client enters the scene where you've added the audio. So to add audio to a scene, all you have to do is click on the sound button that's in the scene that you want to add the audio. So I'll add it to my first scene here, and then I'm just going to select which audio file I want to add. This is just some indoor ambience, so I'm going to click on that. And when I click on that, I can choose to either loop it once or loop it continuously. Um, Sorry, this is continuously. This is once. I'm just going to click on loop once and press save. Now, when my client enters that first scene, the ambient audio will play automatically. If I wanted to, I can add this audio to all of my scenes just by repeating those same steps through all of my scenes. To remove the audio from a scene, I can do that just by, again, clicking on the sound button and then just deselecting the audio and press save. Okay, so at this point, my project is ready and I can go ahead and view it. There's a couple of different ways you can open and view your project, but from the project edit page that we're on, you can just click on this button here, View in 360, and this will open up your project in browser mode. So as you can see, all of the hotspots we created are here in the space. We will explore this project a little bit, we will explore this project more later and test out these hotspots during our collaborate session shortly. From here, I'm just going to exit out of the project. So before we start our collaborate session, I just wanted to go over a few more things that you can do from your project edit page. So the first thing I want to mention is that even though my project is complete, I can come back to this page or the hotspot editor and make changes at any time. So something that you can add to your project right away or as it develops are scene options. So this is a really cool feature that allows you to show your client multiple versions of the same scene with different materials, lighting, furniture configurations, and so on. So I'm going to open up a different project with scene options to show you what this project would look like. So I'm going to go back and I'm just going to open this office space project. So I have my scenes ready here, and to create a scene option group, you're going to start off by uploading the additional scene or scenes as you normally would. So I've already uploaded mine here to save time, this option 2. And this is just another version of my first scene. So to create a scene option group, I'm going to click on these 2 lines and drag it into my first scene to create a group. Now you can rename the group to whatever you'd like. I'm just going to write welcome area. And then I'm going to open up the group here and just rename these ones, this to option 1 so that we can distinguish between the two. And then once that's done, you can go ahead and view your project, and I'll show you what that scene option looks like from the perspective of whoever's viewing your project. So when you open the project, you'll see a new tab here. So when you click on this, you can go between both scene options, I guess. So if I'm my client, I can easily switch back and forth to see the differences in the space. All right, now I'm going to exit that and we'll go back to my original project we were working on. The next feature I want to show you is the replace button. So this allows you to make changes to and re-render individual scenes in your project without having to render and create an entirely new project. So to replace a scene, you can just click on this replace button and a pop-up will appear like this to upload the new file from your computer and replace your original scene. Another thing you can do from this page is duplicate your entire project with our copy function. So this is a helpful tool if you want to make changes to your project without affecting the original. So you can duplicate your project just by clicking on this duplicate button. And when you do this, a copy of your project will be created and added to the same folder. The next thing I want to cover is some ways that you can share your projects. So from the project edit page, which we are on now, we can see 4 tabs. We have assets, markups, share, and analytics. I'm just going to click on share to talk about some of the ways we can share a project. So within this tab is where you'll find your project URL. So each project you create with Yulio will generate its own unique URL, and you can copy that and share it anywhere you would share a regular URL. Anyone with this link can open and view your full project unless your project is set to private, which I can show you how to do later. On the right side of the URL, we have a few more sharing options. This first icon will open up your project's unique QR code, which you can download and print, or you can share it digitally. In an event or trade show setting, you can have this code on display at your booth, and anyone with a smartphone can scan the code and the project will pop up on their phone for them to view. The next icon we have is for text sharing, and beside that is the embed icon. This allows you to embed your project directly onto your website. So this is a great feature because you can showcase one or more projects on your company website and they're fully interactive. I will show you an example of what this could look like from our own website. So here's an example of a project that was embedded on our website. And as the viewer, it's fully interactive, just like it would be in any other browser mode experience. So if you need help with embedding your project, we recommend you just reach out to your IT or marketing team for support with that. All right, another way you can share your project is through client galleries. So to create a client gallery, you'll just click on the Resources tab at the top of your page and select Client Galleries from the dropdown. From here, you can select Create a Gallery, and you'll see that you have 2 gallery options, Individual and Event. An individual gallery allows you to upload and share a personalized gallery of Yulio projects directly with your client. They can go in and view the gallery of projects on their phone, tablet, computer, or a VR headset. An event gallery is great for setting up a custom project gallery on your VR headset before heading into an event or a meeting. The best part about client galleries is you can create as many shareable galleries as you'd like without having to purchase any additional Yulio licenses. Okay, now I'm just going to return to my project edit page again. So after sharing your project, you might want to know how you can keep track of when and how they're being viewed. So from this page, you can click on the Analytics tab here, and you can see from this page the data surrounding how, when, and where this specific project has been viewed, and it will break down that data by individual view. The final tab I want to show you here is the markups report. So you can open that by clicking on markups. This is a great way to keep track of feedback on your project over time. So you can mark up projects while in browser mode or during a collaborate session, which I will show you shortly. If I had any markups on my project already, you would see them recorded here. So you would see drawings and text annotations on the project here, and text annotations recorded on the right side here. So project markups is a feature that's enabled on all of your projects by default, but you can disable it by going to your project settings, which you can open by clicking on this gear icon. And this is your individual project settings. So this will tell you details such as when the project was last modified and who the author is. And if you remember earlier, I mentioned that you can private your project. By default, your Yulio projects are set to public, meaning anyone with the link can view them. In the case that you've shared your project link with someone, but you now want to revoke that access, you can update that privacy setting here just by um, switching your project over to private. When your project is private, only members of your Yulio account who are logged in and authorized clients can view the project. So an authorized client would be a client who has the project available to them through a client gallery. Okay, let's press close. And now we are going to wrap up today's webinar with our Collaborate session. So I'm going to click on this Collaborate tab here. So if you don't know, Collaborate is Yulio's presentation tool. When you host a Collaborate session, you can have everyone meet remotely, but in the same virtual space. You can guide colleagues or clients around the project, see what they're seeing, and collect feedback all within a single session. Guests that you're meeting with can choose to join in a VR headset or from their internet browser. So it's a really convenient tool. So to launch a Collaborate session, just going to click on Start Collaborating. And then you can select which project you'd like to host your session in. Oops, this one. Client training, and I'm going to find that project that we were working on. So something to note here is if you have a headset connected to your account and projects uploaded to that headset gallery, when you start a Collaborate session, the first project in your headset gallery will auto load here by default. Right now, I have this setting turned off, which is why you saw I went in and selected my project manually. If you have a headset and you prefer to, like I did, select your project manually each time, you'll want to go and turn this setting off. And you're going to turn off auto load first headset project. So I'm going to ask whoever wants to join this session to join on your mobile device. So you can either scan this QR code with your camera or visit live.yulio.com and enter the group code. So today's group code is UFXQ. I'll just give you a minute to join if you'd like. And again, that group code is UFXQ. Okay, so when a new guest joins, I'll be able to see their name pop up in the Participants tab, which is right here. So now that you've joined on your mobile device, you'll be able to look at my screen to see what your perspective will be as you host sessions moving forward. And what you see on your mobile device is what your guests will be seeing as the participants. So let's get started with our session. So looking at my screen as the host, there's two ways that you can present your Collaborate session. We have present mode here and explore mode. By default, your Collaborate sessions will open in present mode, and we recommend starting off in this mode just because it gives you as the host the control to guide your viewers through the experience and tell the design story. In this mode, guests cannot activate any hotspots and they'll be restricted to the scene that the host is in. So only when the host activates a hotspot will the guest view the hotspot, and only when the host navigates to a new scene will the guest navigate to a new scene. So before testing our hotspots, an important thing to note is that while in presenter mode, your guests will be in the same scene as you, but their screens will not be following your gaze exactly. So if you join the session, you'll notice that we're in the same scene, but as I look around, the view on your phone doesn't follow. So if I wanted to direct my guests' attention to a certain area, I can do that by using this spotlight tool, which looks like a flashlight on the top right side of my screen. So let's say I wanted to direct your attention over to the reception area. I'd move my gaze over there and then click on the spotlight tool. So if you're in the session, you should notice that your gaze was redirected to where I'm looking. So let's take a look at some of our hotspots. So starting with this audio hotspot, if I clicked on this, you should be able to hear the audio, although since I'm recording right now, I'm not sure if you would be able to. Over here is my text hotspot that I added in earlier. And as I said, as I added earlier, here's that external link that if I clicked on, it would open up in a new tab. And let's move to our a different scene. So I can move us all over to view 2 just by clicking on that navigation hotspot. And we should all be transported into that second scene now. Over here, I can open up this image hotspot and we can all take a look at the image. And there's that external link again that I added earlier. Now, if I open up the floor plan, I can see where I am in the space based on the location markers that I added earlier, or that um, it was already added through Yulio Jump, but that we talked about earlier. So we're in the second scene, and that's highlighted blue here. So we can easily see where we are in the space based on that marker. All right, now I'm going to jump back to our first scene just by clicking on that marker for scene 2, or scene 1, sorry. So now that we're back in our first scene, I'm going to test out one of the augmented reality hotspots. So let's open up this chair. So looking at my screen, this is what the browser experience looks like when viewing an AR hotspot from a computer. So I can just click and drag my mouse to view the object in full 360. If your guest has joined the Collaborate session on their computer also, what they can do is click on this AR button here and scan this QR code with their smartphone or tablet. And this will open the AR object on their mobile device where they can see the object in the context of their own space. And from there, they can position it, scale it, and walk around it. If your guests join the Collaborate session from a VR headset with mixed reality capabilities or from their phone or tablet, they will be able to just open the object and have that true AR experience right away. So if you've joined our session from your phone, you can go ahead and try that out now. So if the object should be popped up, um, there should be a AR button at the bottom of your screen, and you can click on that to see the object in the context of your physical surroundings. You will just have to make sure that there's enough space around you to actually drop the AR object, or it may not function properly. All right, so I'm just going to exit out of the AR for now. The final feature I want to show you here is the project markup tool, which you can open just by clicking on this pencil icon on the top of the screen. So, as I mentioned earlier, this feature allows you to mark up your projects while in browser mode or during a collaborate session. So, this is a great tool for recording feedback from clients during the session. And then any markups made here will be automatically recorded in the project's markup report that I showed you earlier. So when I click on this tool, you'll see there's a few options for marking up the project. So I can use the pen tool to add drawings on the project or circle things. And then I can add a text comment anywhere. And that should be recorded for everyone in the session to see. And then also recorded in your markup report for later. Okay, so now I'm just going to end our collaborate session, and that will wrap up our Getting Started with Yulio webinar. So thank you all for joining me today. If you have any questions, you can submit them in the question box, and I'll stick around for the next couple of minutes to answer those. As a reminder, if you want to book an additional training session with me, my email is up on the screen. So feel free to reach out, and I will gladly work with you to set up a time for us to meet. Of course, you can also email me at any time if you have any questions that pop up later. So thank you for joining me. I'll just take a look to see if we have any questions, and then I will wrap up the webinar.